You're listening to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan, as always, joined by James, Callum, and Alum in the studio. How you going, boys?
Not bad.
Cute.
It's been a few weeks since we've been in the studio. You know, we've been getting up to some shenanigans in real life, as it is. We get busy.
Mm-hmm.
But we're back, and we're going to talk about a couple of interesting films this week.
Yes.
We're going to start with a new Bollywood film, Indian film, called Fighter, which is essentially Indian Top Gun.
Yeah.
Pretty much the whole concept is Indian Top Gun.
Yeah. I mean, Bollywood's known for their rip-offs of Hollywood movies. So when I saw the trailer for this, I was like, guys, we kind of have to go.
Yeah.
Especially because, Maverick just came out. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's obviously what they're doing.
Yeah, so essentially, like, it is a one-for-one, at least initially, a one-for-one kind of top.
It's not exact,
situation.
yeah.
Or, like, the concept is generally similar. Where It's like you get the best pilots, the best kind of, Air Force, military personnel, and you put them in a special school to learn special squadron skills and go on special missions.
Yeah, and they have to go on this, top secret.
With a focus, I guess, on this mostly near... Kashmir and kind of like the border between Pakistan and India and the kind of conflicts that arise in that area in the film.
It's not a complete rip-off,
no.
but
the idea
is
the same.
It's clear what they're doing.
Yeah.
And, I saw the trailer, I'm like, oh, this is going to be so fun. It's not as wacky as I would hoped it would be. The CGI, obviously there's a CGI. What did you say the budget for the CGI was, Alum? You said it's like a packet of something.
Pringles.
Yeah, you're like the
Pringles.
something like that. But I'm like, it's not that CGI is bad because most of the movie looked fine. When they're taking off and landing, it's real jets, and most of the action scenes were fine. I mean, the CGI was bad. It wasn't even that it was bad as that physics didn't seem to exist.
Yeah.
And I was disappointed that, as we've discussed in earlier episodes, like Bollywood, these kind of films, they're 3 hours long, and this one's no exception. It's 3 hours long, and they have a mixture of action, comedy, a drama, and like musical sequences.
I think that's what's also so interesting about these films is like, can they manage to pull off the balance of all of these things?
Yeah, and
they don't always succeed. Sometimes they do.
I was, because I think we've been ruined by Sholay because that's like
I started you at the top.
Yeah, that's like the tip of the top of.
Yeah, for listeners who want to know like what this could be, probably go back, listen to our Sholay episode, or go watch Sholay.
Yeah, and also because I watched Triple R, that which is there's a crazy movie, and so I was expecting Fighter to be more over the top, and more lavish.
Is the movie the fact that it's a little bit more grounded and, say, realistic, not over the top, is that due to the fact that the movie was also, I guess, had involvement of the military? Maybe they didn't want to...
Well, I was thinking about that because one of the things that disappointed me was that when there are the song and dance routines, they're like almost just music videos put into the rest of the movie. Like, they don't feel like they're...
I have a feeling that that's because there would be, I guess, more... not censor involvement, but political involvement, military involvement. Yeah. The movie was like, I guess, essentially brought to you by the Indian Air Force.
Oh yeah,
so there might be restrictions on tone and what they can and can't get away with in a movie like this in terms of tone.
That could definitely be part of it. Like, you think of American action movies being gung ho and patriotic, and this is like that. Yeah. For India turned up to 11.
Yeah, exactly. And I think having like, it might be sending a wrong message if they had like a dance off on the Indian kind of
that's what I was
Air
hoping
Force,
for.
Like,
the guys with the light things that like wave around so they direct the planes. I think I'm like, that would have been a cool dance routine.
I think maybe the Air
ground
Force
crew.
I think maybe the Air Force wasn't as keen on having like an elaborate dance number, kind of almost.
I think also. Yeah. I think this movie was trying to be more of just a straight action movie and not too crazy over the top. It's not really like a adventure or a fantasy or anything. It's just like if they pared it back a little bit, it would just be a normal American action movie, like Hollywood style action movie. So, I was just it was fun though. We all had fun. It
was fun
for the 3 hour runtime. Like we all like
our ears bled.
Oh, they had it. Yeah, they had it. Not that it was too loud. It was that it wasn't
mixed correctly,
Yeah.
or balanced correctly at the theater.
Yeah,
Again,
it felt like it was
necessarily
peaking.
be the movie. That might be the theater.
I think that was the theater. Yeah, the screen was also dirty.
They
which
probably
was,
see as much as we were complaining like
And
it's too loud.
Wait.
I don't doubt for a second.
Did you see this at a local?
Yeah.
yeah, like,
And the screen was dirty.
yeah, someone had thrown like a Coke at the bottom of
Yes.
the screen.
I mean, it is where we are in some
Yeah.
aspects. I would have laughed as like we're like this is too loud, and then we go to them. We're like, can you turn it down? Like, no, we have specific requests from this audience that it's like these movies need to be turned up to 11.
To be fair though, I do hate it when you go into a movie and it's not loud enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd rather it be a little bit too.
Yeah, but this was a little
Yeah.
bit excessive.
Yeah.
Like when you watch us saying, "Hey, sound has hit 100
Yeah.
plus decibels."
Danger.
It's like, yeah, you should probably
Oh, a Hindi version of Danger Zone would have made this movie the best. I kind of wish it was almost more a rip-off of Top Gun and just more like a...
We got the motorbike.
Was there a shower
Yeah.
scene with the men?
No.
But motorbikes are also
I know they're
canonically-
big in India. Yeah,
yeah, big. It's like especially the motorbike they were riding was
the
the
Royal
Bullet.
Enfield.
There's a Royal Enfield Bullet, which has been iconic. I mean, it was a British manufactured built motorbike in the olden days, but it was so popular that they continued building it, and now
Surely they have a motorbike, don't
Yeah.
they? There's like a whole song on it. And
Yeah.
they've got
Yeah.
the little caddy as well.
Yeah, the sidecar.
Yeah.
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 But
so-
yeah, it was a fun time for...
and we got an intermission.
We did,
That was a good time as
Yeah.
well.
except there's no guy selling what my cousin would call pastries, aka cakes, outside.
Oh, man.
Can you imagine
like,
that? Glass bottles of Coke and other stuff, and you get
Oof.
like so you get cakes and everything else during the intermission, and then you have.
Does this
vodka.
happen? Does this happen at our local?
Yeah, they had the intermission because I assume the
Do they bring
intermission...
people in with like a cart and
No,
stuff?
no.
gonna
Alan was saying he wished...
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what happens in India, so he's saying he wished
Yeah,
that
yeah,
happened here. Yeah. No, but usually they don't do an intermission for long films, but I guess this is an Indian film which already has the intermission built in.
Yeah.
So
it's easier for them just to be like, okay, cool, just run the
Yeah.
intermission
Yeah.
till all that
10
time.
People got
minutes,
to
yeah.
go take a leak, and
yeah.
we were going to buy some drinks or something, but the Hoyts guy was like, no, we're closed. And
Oh.
I'm like, how are you
Lame.
closed? The cinema's open, just give me the thing.
Yeah, it wasn't even...
I'm giving you money.
It wasn't
in
even that
exchange
late
for
at
goods
the
and
time.
services. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, no, look, I like this movie. I think that the problems we have are probably due to the fact that like there's probably more political involvement with this movie being so heavily tied to the military.
Yeah.
Like as you were saying, all the song and dance numbers, the music videos, most of them are also
I think-
kind of like in the imaginations of the characters or in areas of the movie
Yeah,
where
it's
there's
very
not a
separate.
military.
Yeah, it's like a
aspect to it. Yeah.
action scene will end and then...
And then
it'll
they're
be
at the
like-
club, or
and
they're
then
at
they're
a
at
beach,
the club, yeah, at the beach.
6,000
and so-
miles away.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's all probably just because they don't want to, make the military look
Yeah.
bad or kind
It's
of
all.
embarrass.
It could also be a marketing thing where I don't know how the industry is there, but could they have cut those out and aired those as music videos on Indian TV
That's also a good question.
and being like,
Yeah.
"Come see Fighter."
Yeah,
This
it's
is featuring this new song by
It's
this
a movie,
actor and
but
this.
they're also making money off the music. Doing
Yeah, I
music
mean,
videos
the
separately.
music videos are still highly popular in the
yeah,
Indian demographic.
yes,
We have your own video hits, so I'd imagine there's this like Z Music or something.
Yeah,
one of their
yeah.
channels, and it's just constantly just all the songs and dances from movies.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
it's
that
like
makes sense,
and
yeah.
you can market your movie that way too. So yeah, but it was a fun time.
You did get some wackiness towards the end, though, like the climax.
Yeah, there was some like really over the top.
Say it. Say it, James. Say it.
I was gonna say it's Fast and
No, I
Furious.
was going to say giant.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yeah. That was awesome. Wait, can this episode be called Jai Hind?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be like our search term, and then everyone's gonna be like, "What? There's a bunch of white guys and a brown guy, token brown guy, talking
Hey,
about." an
we
Indian
got
movie."
Me and Nathan were just gonna go on our own if you didn't show up, so it would have been just like us, the two white guys, and the only two white guys at the cinema. No, I was gonna say at the end, like the fights start to get like crazy over the top, like Fast and Furious, and I'm like, I'm down for that. I had a lot of fun. And there was a couple like funny, jokey bits, but yeah, it was a fun time. Not the best, but
I think if they shaved an hour off it, it could have been a much better movie. In some ways.
I feel like when I was watching Sholay or whatever, I wouldn't touch anything.
Sholay.
Yeah,
I wouldn't touch.
Whereas
Sholay. I
this,
would edit this down.
I would cut out the songs completely. I would edit it down to like a tighter, just straight action movie.
Like what made Top Gun Maverick so good, and the original Top Gun, it's like it's about a very specific mission. At least with Maverick, I haven't watched the first one in a while.
Yeah,
and I'm like, when this movie suffers for me because it's like it's mission, and then it's like more story, and there's another mission. I'm like, it kind of loses the gravity of getting that mission perfect.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like with Top Gun, it's essentially Maverick's essentially a Star Wars film. Like we discussed it when it's like you have that kind of that one mission.
This movie has that as well, but they have to kind of go in and then out and then go in again and then
it kind of loses something in that, I feel.
Especially, I mean, there'll be some spoilers. We'll try to keep the story relatively vague, but the fact that they like in the I call it mid part of the story, it's very very important to not have your own troops on the wrong side of the border stuck. And the last, basically, act of the film, everyone's on the wrong side of the border. Yeah. It's like, we don't care anymore. It's like, is this an international incident? Yes, it is. It's okay, though. Because the action.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I think, like, you know, after I saw Triple R and then Sholay, and I was like, I made a list of all these Bollywood movies and Indian films that I needed to see. And just because most of them are so long, I just never get round to watching them. Because when I do have time to watch a long movie, there's a lot of other movies I've got lined up.
I can watch 2 or 3 smaller movies in the time it takes me to watch one
binge a whole
Bollywood
series
movie.
or something. But I want to keep up with going and seeing these movies. So I think, you know, this is the first Bollywood film I've seen at the cinema.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
that's something I thought I would never really do because they always play them at a low
We just have to keep an eye out for ones that look interesting.
Yeah.
Keep
an eye out for the reviews.
All right. Any other thoughts on The Fighter before we move on?
I guess we'll talk a little bit about the more, I guess, you know, context behind situations. There is a border dispute between India and Pakistan over the little area of Kashmir. It was in the olden days under a king. It was a small kingdom. The majority population happens to be Muslim, but the king himself was a Hindu. And when there was, I think, some semblance of uprising, he tried to get help from the Indian state. And kind of, that's where I think the Indian state kind of lays claim to the area. Whereas a lot of the Muslim population kind of feels more...
Pakistan is predominantly Muslim, yeah.
And then there's also a huge group of people that are just like, you know what, we're our own thing. We just want to be Kashmir. We don't want to be India. We don't want to be Pakistan. We just want to be Kashmir. So that's, it's a very, very convoluted kind of... and historically, you know, important thing. A lot of fighting has been done over it. And we do like to blame the white man because the one who split up the countries was a white man who had no idea about anything.
That's the English specialty. Just go in there, be like, "This belongs to you," and leave.
Yeah,
and then just
we'll be taking the good stuff. Enjoy your dilapidated railways, but it's obviously this. It's
a complex issue, and the movie obviously is telling it from the gung ho patriotic Indian
perspective.
And you can't watch this movie and expect a moderate.
There's
the Pakistan are the bad guys, and they're evil.
This movie is very black and white to a fault.
Are they like villains?
They're like mustache twirling villains. Yeah.
There are some guys that are like...
There's like one actual government... Yeah, there's a couple of government guys like, maybe we shouldn't be harboring terrorists.
I'll give them that.
And then like, they promptly get killed.
I will give them that. There's the 2 Pakistani guys who are like, maybe we are. And there's like, nah.
You say that
Pakistan's run by terrorists.
I saw someone on Twitter today complaining about how movies don't have villains anymore. All the villains now have to be some shade of morally grey.
I think Bollywood has this kind
of... That's why
they're not concerned about
that's why I said, are they villains? Because we need a good villain, you know what I mean? Like,
I think the especially with like Disney, I think that post might have been in relation to Disney or Pixar, where it's like they used to have like the really cool villains like Scar or whatever, and now it's like it has to be someone who's troubled and misunderstood.
Even the main villain in Fighter, he almost looks like a Sith Lord. Do you know what I mean? He's kind of like... No, you think we're joking.
He's like emo. He's like super emo.
He's like got super emo. He's got red eyes. Yeah. And I'm like, he just looks like this, like normally. Like there's nothing wrong with the dude. He just wanders around looking like a Sith Lord.
Yeah, he's just like, I like to kill.
Yeah, and he's like,
I'm a terrorist. I make bombs.
That's kind of what I like though. It's
fun.
There is definitely a time and a place for the complicated morally grey antagonist, right? But sometimes you don't want an antagonist,
Especially
you need a villain.
You know, we always...
Well, you should have come to the movie then, Kel.
Yeah, you missed out.
But listeners, like, obviously, don't go into
it's a Netflix co-production, so it'll probably come on Netflix
eventually
soon anyway. Yeah.
But don't go into this movie expecting anything of sort of like a moderate political opinion.
I mean, I guess it's fair to call it just a dumb action movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's essentially, you know, America does it all the time with America good, everyone else bad.
Yeah.
You know, this is an Indian version of that kind of film.
Yeah.
I think... given that we're having an okay time with occasionally watching an Indian movie, the next one we might try and review would be Border. It's a 1997 film.
Oh, interesting. It's pre-CG.
Did we talk about this? I feel like we might have
discussed it before, but this is based on or an adaptation of the events of the Battle of Longwala in Rajasthan between India and Pakistan. So,
it's
based on 1971 war/battle.
Oh, that would be cool.
That'd be cool. And it'll be interesting to see because it'll be obviously it's no CG. I wonder was it a high budget production?
It was. I think it was pretty good budget. They did. You'll see some CG. And this is like 90s CG.
Yeah.
You know.
Excellent.
But the budget at the time was 1 million rupees, which I think, you know, for the time was pretty solid.
I don't know.
We'll give it a go. Why not?
Yeah. Add it to.
10 million rupees. Sorry, 10 million.
Yeah, I'll add it to the list. Yeah.
All right. Very good. So Fighter, like go see it. It's done fun. It'll probably come to Netflix.
If it comes
eventually.
to Netflix,
yeah.
If you've never seen a Bollywood movie before, Sholay is probably where you should start.
Start with Sholay, but this is probably closer to like this is a standard American film. This is a good entry.
That's what I was gonna say. It's kind of entry level. It's like kind of just watching an American Michael Bay movie or something.
Dipping your toes into the Bollywood waters.
Yeah. And it's like the songs are a bit jarring, but if you get used to them, then you could probably watch any other.
And if you watch it on Netflix, you can fast forward the songs.
Yeah, again, because
the songs aren't that good.
No, also because the songs are so jarring to the rest of the film, like the environments change dramatically. You can easily just fast forward it until it's back to
every
the
song.
bass and
every
stuff.
song in Sholay was a banger. Every song in Triple R was like pretty good or fun. Every song in Fighter was like, it's like a pop. Just Indian pop.
The songs, in some ways, except for maybe the first one with the goof, they did forward the plot, you know, in Sholay. Like
Sholay, yeah.
Whereas this
is just it's jarring. It's like we love each other, and it's like, hang on, this is in between two.
There's a war going on.
Scenes. Yeah,
I haven't rewatched Sholay.
An international incident.
I haven't rewatched Sholay, but I can still remember at least 3 of the songs vividly.
Oh yeah, I play. What was that song? The Holly song.
Yeah.
I love that. This is a banger.
Yeah, and I can't remember any of the songs in Fighter. So there you go.
Yeah, but it was a fun time.
Look, moving on, just quickly. I saw James has also watched The Den.
Yes.
2013. What did you think about The Den? Because I watched The Den and I enjoyed it. It obviously didn't land all of it.
Yeah.
But it was more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, so...
For listeners, The Den is like, I guess an earlier example.
It's a 2013...
Like kind of...
screen cap movie.
Yeah.
Bit of found footage. I guess, like it's an earlier one because...
Searching was what, 2017?
2018?
Something like that.
So we've had like Searching, Missing, 2015 or 16 was Unfriended. Host came out in 2020. So, but I think The Den came out in 2013, so it might have been one of the earlier examples.
And we missed it completely.
Yeah, I remember you showed, I think someone tweeted about it or something.
Yeah, someone tweeted about it on Threads and we're like, watching this movie tonight. And I was like, that looks interesting. I'll look it up.
And I was like, I've never heard of that. So Nathan watched it and then I watched it. It's a pretty, for the first half or so, it's pretty standard. Like, it's about a woman, she's got like a research grant, like an anthropology or something, where she's studying like chat roulette, basically.
Yeah, she's studying how people behave through webcam interactions.
And how many people she can talk to across the world, and she's going to document all this by recording it all on her screen. And of course, then it gets spooky and there's like someone stalking her or whatever, and it's all told on the screen.
On screens, yeah.
So I mean, one thing that's interesting is because it is more than 10 years old, it's an interesting little time capsule. So smartphones are still kind of new.
Yeah.
There's a bit where she's chat rouletting with someone who's on their bike in New York. using his phone, and she's like, "Wow, how are you doing that?" And he's like, "4G, baby."
Yeah.
And it's like a fun little time capsule.
Yeah, it's cool. And there's some Alan would appreciate this. Some of the chats are a bit inappropriate in ways that you can imagine for the time.
Everyone know the risky click to the next caller.
Risky click, some spinning and some other things going on.
Some Bruno action.
Yeah.
And who is not gotten banned on a chat site?
Yeah, certainly not us, right, Alan?
Yes. But so it's like sets that up, and that's kind of fun, and then it kind of gets spooky. And I was like, this is an okay movie, but then it gets kind of crazier as it goes on, and then it becomes kind of like more found footage, and she starts taking the laptop with her to different places, and the webcam, moves, and it's like, and then it goes like kind of off the rails, and I was like, oh, this is pretty disturbing.
Not bad for a movie I hadn't heard of before.
I was surprised because at the end, I'm like, it was very unsettling and disturbing, and it had these really awful implications, but it's also like 10 years old, so it's like, it's kind of like, it's not full on like 90s, the internet is scary, but it's also maybe an earlier example, I'm not sure, because I can't remember anything else, but of like, this is what happens on the dark web kind of thing.
Yeah, it has elements of a dark web kind of. Yeah,
because in the last few years, there's been like a lot of video, like PC games, like Welcome to the Game, and we played Dark Web Streamer at PAX last year, and so like in the last few years, there's been this, and there's a lot of YouTubers who go on like
Muraha,
and buy stuff from the dark web,
and they do exposés on this crazy thing that happened on the dark web.
Yeah.
Whereas in 2013, I don't know how much of that was a thing. And so at the end of this movie, I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool...
Yeah, the movie's impressive for what it managed to do in 2013 with its ideas.
Yeah, it was assumedly very low budget, and it's pretty well made. Yeah, I enjoyed it. And I like when movies go crazy at the end. So at the end, I was like, wow, this is nuts.
Yeah, it escalates.
Yeah. I was expecting it to go like most of those other found footage where you kind of like jump scare the end and the screen goes black, but it gets crazier and crazier. And so I was like, oh, it's actually not bad.
Yeah, don't hate it.
Yeah. For like, if you're into like found footage. It's only
like 90 minutes long.
Yeah, and I think we talked about how there's so many found footage movies and most of them are garbage, and so it's good to find one that's older and also one that I hadn't heard of, and I'm like, pretty interesting.
Yeah, again, for an early example of something that's popular now, it did a very good job.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's all I've got for now. We're running out of time a little bit. What have you got for us, Callum?
So, no movies this week, but I do have a video game to talk about. Which, if astute listeners might remember, sometimes we occasionally might cover books or video games.
Yeah, well, we used to do more video games, and then we stopped, and then we started doing them again, and then we stopped.
Yeah. So the famous Final Fantasy franchise, arguably the most famous entry is Final Fantasy VII. Mm-hmm. For some reason that I'll never be able to understand.
You don't agree?
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII is the weakest of the PS1 trilogy.
This close to insulting neckbeards, I think.
Yeah.
But he's not wrong.
No, anyway, they're like...
So the general consensus is 7 is one of the best, if not the best entry.
Yeah, but it has the weakest story.
Correct. So the problem is, and this has actually got to do with my review as well, the problem with 7 and 8 for that matter, but 7 to a higher degree, is that the company that made this game, Square Enix, had trouble telling bigger stories in 3D. So all of the previous games were 2D games with relatively simple stories because they were made for relatively simple hardware. Like, for example, Final Fantasy VI was a SNES game.
Okay.
So they were going to go to the 64, but it was too limiting for them because they wanted to tell a longer story, and the 64 only had limited storage space. But it was arguably more powerful than the PlayStation 1. But it was correct.
I don't feel that's correct.
It could.
So all of the 64 simps tell me that it had better 3D acceleration.
I think,
but that's not the whole equation.
Yeah. The reason they chose PlayStation 1...
Discs have
Discs
larger...
has
Discs
storage.
have,
Yes,
you
that's
do
right.
more on a disc than you do on a cartridge.
Considerably
Sorry,
more
nerds,
storage.
it's a fact.
yeah.
Considerably more storage space allowed higher definition audio, higher definition assets in terms of like 2D backdrops. You could have more of them, that type of thing. But maybe I have read that it wasn't as good at 3D acceleration.
Yeah, and because of the cartridge, you had less on the N64. You had like less loading times.
Correct. So the 64 was faster.
And it ran better, smoother.
Yeah,
Whereas the
and-
PS1 is known for a lot of
The
jank.
games on the 64 may have looked better, but they had to be simpler.
Correct. Yeah. Anyway, so Final Fantasy VII was made with this. I guess they, for once in their in the company's history, they could go ham.
So this was their first 3D Final Fantasy? Okay.
Correct. So they could go ham, and they did. So it's a science fiction fantasy story told across 3 or 4 discs.
Yeah.
Wow.
3 or 4.
And the story is just nuts. It involves mild spoilers of Final Fantasy without any context associated with them. It involves aliens. It involves clones, amnesia, ripping the guts out of the planet.
Mental illness.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, we're talking about Futurama? Or?
Yeah, Final Fantasy. Yeah, I know. But anyway, so my point being, it's like this crazy, complicated science fiction fantasy game. And if anyone says it's not complicated, well, then try and explain the story to me in under 100 words.
Yeah, no,
Go.
Final Fantasy's always been complicated.
Anyway, so it was beloved, right? It was like, it's iconic. And it's a good game, but like the story is a mess.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and
so
to get close to understanding it, you have to watch like the Advent Children and play all the other 600 games
That's
that
right.
are
So
released in that
they released-
universe
yeah.
to try and weave it into one cohesive story.
yeah, they released the game. Then there was a game on
Yeah.
PS2 called Dirge Cerberus, which was about a side character. There were PSP games, mobile games, movies made,
And we've also talked before how about all the numbered sequels aren't connected to each other,
Correct.
but then there are sequels to those that
Yeah.
are named different things.
Yeah, well, it is like Final Fantasy VII subtitle Dirge Cerberus, for example.
But like Final Fantasy VII wasn't a sequel to 6. It's
No,
just set in
no,
the
they're
same
all. It's an
universe.
anthology franchise. Yeah. So anyway, that game, people have been clamoring for it to be remade or remastered for years and years since we were in high school. In fact, like going back years. Anyway, it finally got remade 4 years ago. It first came out.
Oh, that's the one that came out.
On PS4.
Yes,
originally.
I
yeah.
remember this. Yeah.
And it's
This is the one where Cloud wears a dress.
yes, in the original as well.
This
So
is,
they toned that
that's-
down. They toned that down for the remake.
Is that a good or bad thing?
I think it's a bad thing because
I was going to say it sounds like a bad thing.
I
They
also
should
kind of
lean
understand because
into it.
I don't know that the Twitter heavy Gen Zs might be able to handle some of those themes. I don't know.
Okay, yeah.
They might freak out over it. I don't know. But yeah, there is dress wearing. There's homophobia.
Look-
not like the homophobes are the villains, not like
yeah.
And,
Final Fantasy VII's official statement is $20 is $20.
I mean, basically,
Is that a quote from the game?
no.
No, but that's the ethos that lives by.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to. So for listeners, to add some context, there's a part in the game, in the original game, and in the remake, where you have to. Some of your friends are captured by the notorious slumlord,
Don something, yeah. It's,
I can't even remember.
doesn't matter.
now.
He's a pervert.
Yeah, he's a pervert. Like quite literally, they say that in the game.
Yeah.
And Cloud is like a pretty boy, so he has to acquire dresses from the local cross-dressers, and he has to beat them in mini games or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he has to get a wig from a cross-dresser, and it's another mini game kind of
Don
thing.
Cornea.
You have to
Don
infiltrate.
Cornea, that's the one.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, you have to do squats to impress a bodybuilder, and then he gives you his wig, and it's like a whole thing.
Japan's crazy.
Yeah, anyway, so you get the dress, and then all the boys are hitting on you, and they take you to Don Cornea's palace, and he wants to sleep with you, but you're a man all along.
Yeah.
And then, you have to fight
Here's
a
my
boss.
giant sword.
Yeah. Anyway,
And also his weapon.
Anyway, my point is, so the sequel to this game, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so the original game was spread out across 3 or 4 discs or whatever. Even with the PS4 tech, since they're trying to tell such a large story, they're going to have to spread it out over a decade, basically. So 4 years per release. So the first one
So this Final Fantasy remake that 7 remake that
Yeah.
came out a few years ago
was not the full game. Yeah.
Oh, I remember this. We talked about this. I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the first game covers a big chunk of the original game where you escape from the dystopian city.
Yep.
And then the rest of the game happens. You know what I mean? That's only like the intro part. That's like the first 10 hours or whatever of Final Fantasy VII.
Yep.
So they kind of stretched that out into a whole game. And now they're releasing the other 2 parts with Rebirth coming out on the 22nd, I believe, or 29th of February. So I'm like, well, I better finish Remake because I never finished it because they released. This is a dodgy business practice I don't particularly like.
Square is a bit.
I'm sorry. Oh, hurry up, boys. I swear.
No, that's all right.
I'm just more intrigued like. So you talked about this game with aliens and the core of the planet being ripped out and amnesia and stuff, and I'm like, what you told me had nothing to do with that. So is this just if it's in 4 separate discs, is that just an entirely different game? Like,
no, it's all the one story. So
I know, but it's like, gotta rescue my friends and cross-dress. It's like, that doesn't have any very sci-fi,
Yeah, but
it's in
like
a cyberpunk city.
Game.
It is in a cyberpunk city, correct. But the stuff about that's all like you don't find out about the aliens and the clones and all that stuff until like midway through the game.
Exactly, so it's a different story altogether.
It's very sprawling game.
We'll get there because
I want this in the game. They're like, all right, we'll give you this on disc 1.
Yeah,
disc 2.
No, correct.
Again, some people you might feel scammed by that. In a way,
well,
it starts you off in one sort of.
Yeah, you think.
Well, friend of the show, Jake, is interested in it, but he's going to wait until all 3 games are available because he thinks it's a scam to release a part of a game.
So Jake will be playing this game in his 40s.
Yeah. Well, theoretically, in 8 years.
We'd be in our 40s. Jesus.
Oh wait, no, not 8 years. 4 more years.
Wait, I thought we said we were doing 4 parts.
Yeah, but the next one comes out.
It's 3 parts. Yeah. There was like 3 or 4 discs for the original. The next one's 4 years away, presumably.
But if he wants to wait for his finish and there's 4 parts, then yes, it would be.
It's 3 parts.
No. Yeah.
The new version of 3 parts.
Yeah. Anyway, the reason I say all this is because they're redoing the story for the remake. So I think they understood that they kind of just made a mess with the original story, and they're trying to smooth some things out. But they're also, it's like a multiverse situation. They're also incorporating parts of the other games and stuff that they had going on after the original game. So there's characters from spin-offs that I don't care about popping up, and you have to know all they're Kingdom Heartsifying it. So have you heard of Kingdom Hearts before?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it has a famously convoluted storyline.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening to this, so I don't like it.
I think it's also, anytime they remake a game and they change any part of it, but especially the story, people, I think rightly, fans of the old game, rightly get a bit anxious or angry because it's like, well, you're remaking this game, just
I can understand changing some of the story in this because the story is a mess already.
Yeah. Well,
you can easily just kind of fix a little bit of the story issues with this. But if a game has a simple or straightforward enough story to begin with, then you don't really need
But I think a lot of people like those Final Fantasy games because they're convoluted and...
But only 7.
So 7 and 8 are convoluted.
Okay.
The rest aren't.
8's not as bad as 7.
Yeah. 8's a little less convoluted. 9 is just...
What about the one with the chaos?
Oh, that's not convoluted at all. That's just dumb.
There's a difference, you see.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
No, like it's only 7 and 8 that are convoluted. The rest aren't really.
Because every time I see something Final Fantasy, I'm like, I don't know what that is. It's crazy.
Yeah, 9's my favorite, and that's just a straight up kind of
fairy
tale sword and board.
That's the other thing, because everyone's different. Some of them are more sci-fi, and some of them are more.
Yeah, well, the latest
like
one,
medieval.
The latest numbered one, 16, is a straight up fantasy story, like Game of Thrones style fantasy story.
Yeah, but then the other one, 15, they're driving around in a car.
Yeah, it's a boys' trip. It's
the
awesome.
car can fly too.
Yeah. But then there's monsters around and they have giant swords. I mean, they've always got giant swords.
Anyway, my point
is...
And
then they made that cool CGI movie that had nothing to do with anything Final Fantasy related.
Yep.
It was just called Final
Spirits
Fantasy.
Within, yeah.
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 That's completely not even...
anime too.
That's true, yeah. Anyway,
And there was a hentai in the Italian Senate that one time.
What?
There was.
Okay.
Explain in radio-friendly terms.
I'm pretty sure there was some kind of Italian Senate hearing that was on like Zoom call, and it was being live streamed.
Oh,
somebody plays a Final Fantasy themed hentai.
Okay.
Nice.
So yeah, they're incorporating
Alums across all of the all of the franchises.
They're incorporating all of these side characters into the game, and my personal opinion, which people are desperately wanting to hear, is the original game didn't need all of these characters. It stood on its own 2 feet. We don't need a million side characters. Just have the core cast and their mission. That's all we need. Anyway, that aside, I do think that the remake is able to tell a better story because they have more tech to tell it. They have voice actors. They have cutscenes they can use. It doesn't all have to be text and showing on screen. They can actually narrate a bit more, which is a good thing. Like they can go into backstories and emotional things way better than they could before because you can actually see a character's facial expressions.
Yeah.
Whereas it was, much worse graphics in the original. So I played the one thing I don't like about this game is they didn't release it finished. So they released a part of a game unfinished on launch. So they released a DLC to fully expand the story, and they charged you, I don't know how much, it was like $20 or something. Like, man, I already paid like $150 for this game.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and you have to buy the first game or the first part of the game, then the DLC to that, and now part 2 is coming out, and assumedly there's going to be a DLC for that.
Yeah.
And then part 3 will come. It's like,
I know, they're milking it.
Yeah.
So I played the DLC called Integrate, which introduces a famous character from the original Yuffie, a female ninja / materia thief. Materia is the magic in the game.
Okay.
Anyway, it was pretty fun. It was like a different action-y style. I liked it. It was about 7 hours long, I think, something like that. It was, it was fine. And so Rebirth is coming out this month, and it's much more open world. They say there's going to be mini games, a casino, a whole iconic events in the original you'll be able to experience. I'm kind of excited, but I'm also kind of like, how much can it recapture the original game? Because the original had like a big open world for you to explore. They have to keep it on rails somehow, because it's still just a Blu-ray disc. You know what I mean? Like, you can't have a whole big old world like the original did.
Well, that's why, I
mean, I'll find out.
Yeah, I guess
feel
we'll
like,
see.
Yeah, I feel like graphics has become such an important thing, and it's like, I'd rather...
Me and James talk about it all the time. Give us the AA games, the indie games.
Oh, yeah.
Try something different and new.
It's like you don't have to make everything photorealistic, because then you have to compromise on other things. So
also,
unfortunately, we live in a world where graphics are the most important thing to a lot of people.
Yeah.
There's too much Sephiroth fan service. I'm sorry.
He's the villain, right?
Yeah, not to upset people. I know Sephiroth is a lot of people's so-called comfort character, or whatever these people say now.
He really understands me.
Yeah, no, he's a villain, like we were talking about before. Everyone has to be complicated and morally grey.
It's just misunderstood.
I was trying to explain this to friend of the show, Jake, how mild spoilers. You know what? I'll talk about this off air.
Okay.
But I'm like, no, he's a villain. Stop giving him the whole kind of "I care about you" cloud.
It's because he's like the emo boy, like sad boy.
I already lived through this discussion the first time around with the original game. I don't want to go through it again. He's a villain. I don't care if he gives you the googly eyes. Okay, he wants to kill you and the whole planet. He's a villain. It's like the Killmonger thing. It's like people are like, oh no, yeah, he might kill some people, but he's not a bad guy. I'm like, no, he's a villain. He's a villain. Straight up villain.
Yeah. I mean, he had that whole anti-imperialist thing, which is like, okay, I get it. But yeah, he was still a bad guy.
Well, Sephiroth's like an eco-terrorist. He thinks humans are the problem. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, it's, Thanos was the right thing. It's just like, he was doing it for the right reasons, but he was going in the most extreme...
Final Fantasy Rebirth has a talking dog, so, that's a cool thing. It's called
10
Red
out of 10.
13. Red 13, and he, talks, and he's, big and tough. It's cool.
I remember, I don't know if we talked about this on the show, but I've never played a Final Fantasy game. It's something I've been interested in, but it's such a impenetrable franchise. And I remember when Final Fantasy VII Remake came out a few years ago, Callum said, I think you'd like this one. I think you'd be down for it. And I remember watching it, I'm like, I still don't think it's my thing, but...
You might like 13. That's a very kind of straightforward. You're on rails.
But that's an RPG, like a turn-based RPG.
I don't really like turn-based combat.
So for you, I would say 7 Remake is a good one to start with, because it's science fiction, it's dystopian, and it's action-y. But it's also, you can choose how the combat works. So you can have it classic, where a character moves and defends on his own, but you choose the actions they do. So whether they use a heavy attack or a spell or whatever.
Yeah.
Or start with 16, which is the most current numbered one, which is like it's like a Devil May Cry meets Game of Thrones style game.
Yeah,
I have very complicated feelings about. I won't go into.
I remember. I think we talked about it either on the show or
that's designed to be an entry point to the franchise. Specifically, when you load it up, it says for first timers and experienced players.
I remember you and I were talking about it. I can't remember if it was on air or not. But when 16 came out, I'm like, on the one hand, I do appreciate that it's for newcomers and people like me can have an entry point into the series. But also, I do understand why a lot of fans of the series are like, hey, this isn't Final Fantasy. What is this crap? Why are you watering it down for people who aren't into the series? I can see both.
So Final Fantasy is interesting because I've been playing the Pixel remaster. So they remastered the original 6 games for the Switch and Steam and consoles and whatever. Made it so it can handle better resolutions and stuff like that. And I started from number 1, then I moved on to number 2, and I've never played 2. And so I was fascinated that 2 is completely different. So there's no, like, Final Fantasy 1 has the classic warrior, black mage, whatever, classes. Final Fantasy 2 doesn't have classes. You just equip a weapon and then you get better with the weapons. So they've been changing the way things work since the very first game. But you know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. It seems like every game is so...
And then they got tired. I mean, yeah, 7 was different to 8. 8's different to 9. 10's different to... You know what I mean? So they always change and update, but 16 is the least RPG the franchise has ever become.
That's what I'm saying. It's probably better for someone like me, but I understand why fans of the franchise are kind of like, this isn't Final Fantasy.
Yeah, complicated feelings.
Yeah.
Before we move on, we might be back after these quick. We will be back after these quick messages.
I hope so.
You're back on the Tuesday review. Callum was regaling us about the history and, I guess, context of the new Final Fantasy games.
Yeah, to wrap it all up, I liked 7 Remake. I'm interested in seeing what 7 Rebirth brings to the table. Apparently, it's a more fleshed out, fuller world that they kind of wanted to, but couldn't do in the original PS4 game. Because, like, the PS4 game, it was made for PS4. It wasn't made for 5. You know what I mean? They, like... gave it some oomph in a patch.
This is because they're cutting up the original 1997 Final Fantasy VII. The remake that came out a few years ago on the PS4 is part 1, and Rebirth is part 2 of this story.
Yeah.
So it's still technically the same game. It's just now it's on PS5.
Yeah.
And eventually the next part might even be on PS6.
Yeah, that's the funny thing.
So it's kind of annoying. It's technically just all one. It's the remake of one 90s game, but spread across 3 new games and
possibly
potentially 3 generations of new consoles.
Yeah. Anyway, I liked it. It's not perfect. I don't, it's a hard thing to tackle.
Well, you also said earlier that you don't rate the original 7 as highly as most fans do.
Yeah, and like I said, that's because the story is so up its own ass, frankly. Like I said, like when they wrote the story, they went ham.
I feel like,
and that's a good thing that they had the freedom to express whatever they wanted to. They told a crazy story, you know what I mean?
I appreciate the craziness, but sometimes with any Japanese like anime or video game, I'll be like, what the hell's going on? Gets so convoluted.
But they are retconning a bit and doing what they can. It's still like I said, the problem is they're introducing all these other characters and bogging it down even more. We'll see what happens, right? Because there's twists that I don't know about coming up.
All right, let's move on.
Wasn't bad.
What have you got anything for us, Alan, while you're here?
Well, I just wanted to complain about, because Callum's complaining, I want to complain too. It's like, I want to do some writing. It pushes me. All right, I'm done. No, with changes being made to, like, I guess, old stuff or remakes, there's a live action of the Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes. Yeah.
And, there was something in the past that we won't discuss that was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
That was a terrible remake. Somebody should be shot for that. But anyway, like, this is a very, very beloved franchise. A lot of fond memories from a lot of people. And then they announced certain changes, which... when you're adapting anything it's been over 10, 15 years now.
No, a long time.
You do need to make some changes to adapt to, current societal expectations. That's fair. But I think one of the announcements that was made was one of the characters, Sokka, who happens to be from the Water Tribe, starts off with a slightly, we'll call it, misogynistic...
It's a bit of a sexist.
Sexist tendencies. And his character arc as part of the story is he learns to kind of, put that away, kind of changes his mindset, learns new things, and obviously as no longer that same person at the end of the story. But the showrunners have decided that no, he's not going to do that at all. And a lot of people are, a bit upset about that. Yeah,
I mean, it's one of the problems with remaking anything. What's the point other than money? And... when you are adapting something and you're change something, it's like, well, why? If you're changing it, why don't you just tell a new story? That's why generally I don't like remakes, and with these live action adaptations of, especially beloved animated shows, it's kind of
like if the character was like, catcalling women and being like hubba hubba, capital knockers madam or something.
Yeah.
Then it's understandably like, you can't do that, sir.
Yeah.
We as a society expect better, so let's do that. But you could maybe change some of the things he says. Still have that same undertone of he's obviously a person.
But even in the original show,
it was never egregious.
One, it wasn't egregious, but two, he was always shown to be in the wrong.
It's the Barney Stinson thing, right? It's like he was a bad character, always sexist, but it was never shown in a positive light. You're not trying to make this character look good for these behaviors.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, he was like more slick and cool.
With Barney, at least, there are people that kind of do idolize.
Yeah, like he's
but then
successful.
He's understanding the message. That's a different.
Yeah, but at least he's like successful, good looking. He's good with women, whatever. Whereas Sokka, like he's always been like a goofball.
Yeah,
and like
he's a non-bender. Speaking in terms of that world, and he's also, again, he tries to be the man of the village because the other men have gone to actually fight natural wars.
Yeah,
but he's obviously just a kid,
and is he older than his sister?
Older, yes.
Yeah, so he's the older brother. He's one of the only sort of teenage boys left in his village, so he wants to be the man of the house and be the protector of the village. And so he's like, no girls allowed, no playing, no toys, no being kids.
And then you see his little underlings; they're legit just kids.
Yeah.
So it's like, obviously that's the joke. That's
the joke. Yeah.
It's he's trying to be tough when
he's taking it so seriously. And then Aang, who's this mystical savior, the Last Airbender of the title, he's just having fun with the kids and playing around. It's like. Yeah, that's part of the characters in the story. So again, like,
if people start out perfect,
but then again,
there's no learning.
You need to see growth. Yeah,
you need to see growth.
Because I only ever watched the first season of the animated show. I never saw the rest, so I've actually started rewatching the animated show recently. Because with this new live action version, I'm like, I'd rather just watch the original. And we talked about One Piece few weeks ago with the live action version. I
should have started 6 years ago, man. If you want to watch
that one I can never start. But
hey, do you say that Jake, my boy, is on like episode 900 now? He started a few months ago.
He's a beast.
Yeah, but
wait,
also,
didn't we also talk about there was like a fan edit version?
No, he's not watching the fan edit. He's watching.
Yeah, but he also has the time and the luxury to watch like 20 episodes a day if he wants to.
Yeah, but it's still a grueling, especially once you get
100%. And still, that's almost the
second half.
Yeah, but my thing is like I'd rather just go back to the original most of the time. Especially with
if you get into reading manga, it's a great time.
Yeah, I'm reading One Piece. Wow,
at least that's a cheap subscription to have too. It's like what, $5 a month at most. At least for one of the readers.
But I mean, you said you like the One Piece live action.
Yes.
And this Avatar live action visually like looks okay, and the casting looks fine. So hopefully it'll be okay. But yeah, I'm just kind of like, why do they keep doing this? I'm not interested. Like I don't care about all these remakes and reboots. We've been complaining about this for 15 years now.
Also, while we're having a whinge, this episode is going to be called the Whinge, all right?
Jai Hind in brackets.
Whinge. Yeah.
Jai Hind Whinge. I don't know about that one.
I don't know how that works in context.
We'll discuss afterwards.
Have we seen the new Oscars thing? Or the best Oscar for casting?
Okay, so
is that dumb, or am I misunderstanding?
No.
What
So
the award is for?
I think there is talent in being a casting director, and many important, many great movies have come down to because the person casting the movie understood the assignment.
Yeah.
Does it need an Oscar?
Well, some of the best videos are casting couch videos.
Classic Alum. This episode is classic Alum.
Oh, my bad.
But do they need Oscars?
Yeah,
Don't be rude.
But
yeah, that's also true. I can't even find the button now.
Oh, you can't even find it.
Don't be rude.
Yeah,
now it's just
too late. Yeah, now it's
too late.
The time has passed. Don't worry, I'm sure Alan will say something inappropriate again before we end.
Off the rails.
So I think it's an important thing, and there is creativity behind it, whatever. But my problem is, one, the Oscars are a joke and they're stupid and I hate them. Two, there still isn't a stunt category, which I'm like, that's
more important.
Arguably more important, or at least
I think
more something that'll get more people interested in watching. And wasn't there a couple of years ago where they were not airing certain important
like
awards,
editing
like
or something?
and like cinematography?
Yeah, that
because no one was watching, and I'm like, and now they're adding another.
I just think, especially
category.
with casting, it's weird because there's so much that goes into casting, right? You have obviously actors that will show up for auditions, and maybe you might cast directly. You might say, "I want this actor for this role." I'm like, there's so many different.
But casting directors don't. Like there's like more to it. They look for people. They go out and they scout for people, and they come across people, and they gather a roster of names and faces, so that one day, if something comes up, they'll be like, "Oh, that was that guy," and this thing.
I think it's dumb to have an Oscar for that, though.
I mean, look,
It's
I
not
think
a
it's dumb to have an
creative
Oscar.
skill.
I think it's dumb to have an Oscar for anything, because why are we awarding movies? Oh, this movie's better than this movie.
I mean, it's really just the industry patting itself on.
Exactly, and that's the bigger
Are people
part of
still thanking Harvey Weinstein at the acceptance ceremony? Part or no?
it. I told you he'd say something else inappropriate.
I just sort of supercutted that. I'm like, must be a good guy.
Yeah. Sounds like a great guy. This
Everyone's thanking him all the time. I'm like,
they were, not anymore. But yeah, I think like every time I hear something about the Oscars, I don't care anymore, because I'm like, no one should watch it. It's garbage. It's still when someone we like wins, or a movie we like wins, it's still nice. But
the real truth about what movie's good and what movie's bad comes here.
yes, if you want to know, come to the Tuesday review, because we have the realist.
The realist take the hottest take, the coolest take sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, we're just about out of time. Thank you for listening, everyone. Please like and share the Tuesday Review Facebook page, Twitter page, Instagram page, Threads page, Newsmask page, and Blue Sky page.
Blue Sky. Also, Blue Sky is now available to the public, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is open everywhere for everyone. Or if you want to be hipster, hit us up and we'll give you an invite. I don't even know if still they work. We had invite codes. I don't think they work anymore.
I don't think they need them anymore.
No, we don't. But we'll still give you one for the lols.
Yeah. Hit us up. We're happy to.
Happy to give you a code that no longer works. Why not?
You can make an NFT out of it.
That's it. Also, follow and subscribe to us on YouTube as well.
Yes.
New videos coming every day. For now.
Yeah. Well, we're still uploading our old episodes.
Videos coming new to YouTube.
Yeah.
And we may get some shorts in the future.
Yeah.
Nathan was telling me
They're
that
comfy and easy to wear.
we're up to the period where Alan was sick for like a while.
Yes, I'm. So the next set of episodes I'm going to schedule for upload tomorrow for listeners for a little behind the scenes peek is a period where Alan was sick for like 3 months,
And then we got sick.
and then he got us sick, and it's just like
It was worse than COVID.
Yeah. That was the time where Alan's little cousin got himself some repeated bronchitis situation, going, some bacterial infection that didn't go away for like a whole season.
He told me, I was like, I remember that. That happened.
Yeah.
The lung rot of 22.
Yeah, that's classic lung rot. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week. Adios, cousins.